Hope everybody's nice and tired and sleepy after their lunch and ready to engage in a great conversation about where PDF is going in the future. My name is Jonathan Rhyne. I'm the co-founder and COO of PSPDFKit. Quick intro: we provide an SDK for mobile and web frameworks to integrate into enterprise apps. Basically, trying to do what Adobe Acrobat does in an enterprise app. I like to kind of first start off and tell people when I'm at a developers conference that I am not a developer or an engineer. I'm the proverbial business guy. So please bear with me. If there's anything I say that's technically incorrect or anything, by all means, just call me out on it. I have 2 Austrian business partners. Feedback is welcomed. So yeah, from there, let's continue forward. So PDF. It's kind of one of these legacy technologies in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways not. What do most people think about when they think about PDF? That's a great question. I actually worked with PDFs in my legal profession a lot, both redacting in a discovery type manner, also filing pleadings. And I can tell you that, most people, I think, when they think of PDF, the first thing that comes to mind to at least most of my friends would be this screen. Yes, print to PDF. I need to create a PDF. And so that's what people do, whether it's whether it's printing in Adobe Acrobat, preferably Acrobat Reader, or it's ultimately Microsoft Office and essentially trying to create a PDF out of a Microsoft document. And I think this is maybe part of the problem and also part of the solution. So bear with me. Let's take that a little bit. So just some quick stats to kind of get us all up and running. I think most of us know this that are in this room. PDF, a study done in 2016. This was done by, I think, Fox, that actually was the one that sponsored this study, showed that 92% of managers and knowledge workers consider themselves paper document dependent. This is literally less than 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So paper is still kind of king, right? The same study stated that 90% of those managers and workers said they were dependent on PDF. So paper, PDF, they're kind of like the 2 equivalents of each other. Paper's the real world one, PDF is the electronic one, right? And I think we've seen a bunch of numbers put out, but they put out 2.5 trillion PDFs are created a year. So we're probably going to hit, the around the world 2.5 times. Maybe we're going to be going around the world 5 times in a few years. But I think it's basically pretty understood that PDF is the most widely used document file type in existence. So let's start from there, right? That's the quick stats. Why are PDFs used today? I think there's a couple main reasons, and this isn't necessarily the future-wise, but really just the state of today. PDFs are mainly used to be able to be digital paper, read, review, communicate, manipulate information in a digital medium. Most common reason that PDFs are used. I think a lot of people think, okay, well, we need to talk about the future so much, but don't forget that this is the primary reason. This is why people use PDFs, right? The other big thing is to ensure the document you send looks the same when your intended recipient opens, fidelity. We've talked a lot about this, and I think just about every talk I've heard. This is key. It's the static format. It's the fact that no matter what I have, I can have confidence that when I create it, it looks like this. When the person I want to have it open it, it looks the exact same. A very big reason for it. The other thing, security, to ensure only the intended person opens it and views it. A common example I know within our business is you send out, your statements, like pay statements, and you want to make sure, okay, I need to password protect this pay statement so only the person intended it can open it. So passwords, things like this. To ensure that the document format can be opened on any device is ubiquitous, which we'll see a lot of the whole HTML PDF argument in this talk. There's an argument that some people would say that, well, HTML is more ubiquitous than PDF. But I would even say with most common browsers nowadays, you can open a PDF in the browser. So the fact that I want to be able to use this anywhere, I don't want to have to be the vendor neutral is another thing that comes up here. The fact that no matter who or where, I can open this file type. And then finally, I think archiving, and this is probably more nuanced as in it's being used more with the PDFA spec. We had a PDF Days, I guess it was about a year ago now, the Congressional Archives, or the U.S. Archives, sorry, and I think they have 2020 as their date to go paperless, and PDFA is a big part of this. But as we can see, and I think if you guys have read the website at all, you saw Duff's article recently on the Mueller report where it's still not being used so well. But I still think this is one of the reasons PDFs are used today. And part of that also being the idea that I can open this file type, since the 90s, we're in, going into the 2020s, this file type still exists, and I can still open it. So yeah, some of the use cases, I think we all know this, and this is by no means an exhausted list. But the first one that comes to mind is reading. I don't know how many people read even ebooks and PDFs. The next thing that comes up is anytime you read, you want to highlight, mark up, things like this. This is common things that every digital publisher, I think, uses now. Printing, so yeah, the fidelity portion, the fact that I need to make sure this looks this way once it comes off the printing press. They're almost always delivered in some sort of PDF format. Presentations, we're using PDF right now to do a presentation, yay. Execute and record transactions, this is kind of the legal side of it. I don't know how many PDFs I came into contact with as an attorney. It's always the final version. So you might start on Word, you might mark it up, but then the actual final that you're sending around to actually sign is a PDF. Again, we talked about the archiving important documents, so I won't go further into that. Collect and store data. I don't think this is talked about a lot, but a lot of, whether it's IRS forms, whether it's, insurance forms, these are ultimately done through PDF forms. PDF forms are also used just to pull data. So you come into a doctor's office and I need to enter the time, my last 4 digits, my social security number, or whatever to pull up the forms that I need to fill out to go to the doctor's office. This is used a lot with PDF. And then I would argue collaboration with others. This is something we've talked about a lot. I think it's something that's, catching on more and more. But even right now, even if you don't do it in a completely electronic format, you still annotate a PDF, save it, send the PDF, person opens it, annotates some more, saves it, send it back. And as I said, so many more. I could literally probably spend the 25 minutes talking about the different ways PDFs are used. It's a common thing when people ask me, what does your business do? And I say PDF, and they say, so what does that mean? And then I try to list out all the different customers and all the different use cases and everything under the sun that they do with it. So yeah. So what are some criticisms of PDF today? And I mean, this is kind of getting into the whole HTML future versus the PDF future. Where's the space? One to rule them all, tech discussion. So the most common thing is that people say that PDF is not dynamic, and therefore it's not suitable for all these various different screens we're going to have, and ultimately laying out the content. Okay. PDF is not as user-friendly or accessible as HTML. This is also another common complaint. You cannot collaborate on PDFs, right? You can't update them, you can't change them, all these things, right? And then web packages, which I don't know how many people are familiar, but web packages are the future. There was a recent article out, Duff actually sent it to me, talking about this kind of war is over on the HTML front with the W3C and WG coming together now to make a standard. So I guess they're going to try to create the ISO, but for HTML. But essentially the convergence of HTML and DOM. So sure, we'll see. right? But these are the criticisms mostly of PDF. The one I didn't put up there was you also get the whole like PDFs are large. That becomes a big one as well. But I think that one's kind of going away as internet speeds become faster. Yeah. So what's really the issue here? And bear with me here because I think it's kind of simplistic, but I think the big issue is that half of those things I put up there, PDF can already do. It's already in the spec. People just don't know about it. Maybe the people in this room know about it. Everybody here knows about it. But I can tell you my friends don't know about it. They have no clue that PDF can do what it can do. I mean, we had a talk about this right today in a conference with a bunch of PDF experts. What you didn't know PDF could do. So I think one of the big problems here is education. And I'll be the first one to say, 6 years ago when I came into this, I didn't know all the things PDF could do, so I've even been educated. But then there's also the benefits of doing it with PDF, I think, as well. So it's not just selling it, hey, we can do this, but hey, we can do this and you should do this with PDF. Or maybe, hey, you can do this with PDF, like you can implement Battleship with JavaScript, but maybe you shouldn't do it in PDF. Maybe it's better to do it in a different format. But I think education is huge. Implementation issues and support modern tools. I'm a PDF vendor. This is much a criticism to me and our company as it is to every company in this space. And it's not a criticism so much as to say there's a lot more we can do here. We all can get better at this. And there's a lot of things and how we can get this in the hands of more people, I think, is the big thing. I don't think that the Mueller report, for instance, was scanned twice and essentially just image PDF put in because that was the simplest thing. It was just what they knew, and that was the tools available to get it out as quickly as possible. If they knew other things, they were better educated on the benefits of it and the problems of doing it the way they did it, and they had the tools available to them, we probably would have gotten a better PDF out of it. And hopefully the future is that. This kind of leads to the last issue, and I think it's adoption, which that's hard to say with PDF because this is both the good thing and the bad thing about PDF. The good thing is everybody uses PDF. The bad thing is everybody doesn't use PDF the way they could be using PDF. So it's kind of I'll hit on this more, but this is kind of the cultural aspect of it. People know PDF for one thing and therefore don't associate it with something else. And that can be a good thing and also a bad thing. Yeah. So what's in the future? And I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm going to talk about a bunch of different issues. And this is literally just me brainstorming what I think the future looks like. By no means does it say, this is the future. It just means this is what I'm thinking about when I'm spitballing about this. And so, if anything, I think we have a panel coming up at 5 o'clock where we're going to talk about challenges facing basically engineers developing with in the digital document space. And I think it's a good place to continue this conversation. So, bear with me. This is my crystal ball. Let's all look at it together and see what we come out. Knowing that I think if you look back at TV, what the Jetsons had, the printer that was flying around, and it's like, oh, that was ridiculous. But then, now we look at it and say it was ridiculous. But then we look at Star Trek and they had like the handheld, iPhone or iPad, and you're like, brilliant, they knew, right? So yeah, these are some of the things that I think one of the biggest things that will happen, and I hope will happen, is just wider adoption of the PDFA spec and improvement of the tools available. There's plenty of vendors here that I think have tagging services that have businesses completely around this. I think this can only be adopted more. And what I mean is the less image PDFs we have that have no machine readable information in them, the worse we are, and the better it will be when we can actually harness that data with the tools that will come available. This is not just, this is also, just for archiving. Yeah, so I don't know, when we're archiving 1,000-page text or something like this in 30 years or whatever, they look back and they're trying to think, what were these crazy people thinking? Maybe they'll actually be able to just search it quicker and won't actually have to have somebody review the whole entire 1,000-page document. But I think this will ultimately happen. It's already begun to happen. This is the first one I put up here because it's the easy one. I think it's great that at least the U.S. government, a portion of the U.S. government has adopted this. I wish the whole entire U.S. government would adopt it and ultimately use it. I think there's a lot of space here in the future, and I look forward to it. This is another one, and this has to do with accessibility. The fact of the matter is, I think, is that more people write accessible web pages than PDFs are written that are accessible. That isn't because one is better at it than the other. That's just because that's the culture of people creating those things. The fact that a major document came out of and again, I'm sorry if this is U.S.-centric, a major document came out of the U.S. government that was investigating the head of the U.S. government and the president, and it was not accessible to people with disabilities is a shame. And hopefully, as people realize this is an indispensable part of being a citizen of a state or being part of a society, therefore PDF at UA should be adopted more, and it should become ubiquitous. As in, and this is, granted, I come again also from the iOS space, so I just came from Dub like 2 weeks ago, I guess, and they announced this big implementation where they were showing a person running through Mac OS, basically that was using his voice to do everything. It was super cool, and I get that people think, oh, well, disability, I'm going to hit the 95% or the 90%. And then you have another talk at the conference where they talk about how many people actually have a disability or go with a disability, and it's way more than most people think. So for me, PDF is already there as far as the spec and what's available. It's just whether, people using PDF again know it for more than just I printed a PDF. But this is something I think that will be super important in the future, and hopefully we'll see more and more adoption of the PDF UI spec. Yeah, so the next thing has to do with really security and audit logging. This kind of goes into privacy, which we'll talk. I have another slide more specifically about privacy. But we're seeing this is the battle lines of technology right now is privacy. And one of the battle lines with privacy is who has access to my data, who is doing what with what. This also has to do with now documents where the majority of your data is not on a piece of paper, and it's whether they used, whiteout to put over your social security number and who has access to it. But we don't even know who has access to a document, who has access to the password that opens the document. So things like audit logging, like showing this, it was accessed at this time by this person with this credentials, even if it's online at this IP address, all these things, again, can ultimately be done with PDF, and I think they should be done with PDF. But again, it's an adoption thing. I know one of the things that I've talked about in the past, but if you have a drug that you're applying for with the FDA, they require a special format, and one of the things they require is basically an audit log of anybody that had access to the PDF, who had made changes on it, and essentially where they made changes. I ultimately think this should be done with anything that contains any sensitive or personal information. It should become, oh, well, let me just check the history, or let me just check the audit. And that should be done. So yeah, getting to privacy and redaction. One of the things that we're having now is people don't realize, I think, how much data is collected every day, whether it's your phone, whether it's you searching online, whether it's you using your credit card, all these things, right? Data's everything, data's king, and whereas privacy is kind of just seen as an option. I started out in computer science. I then went to political science in my career. Big change, I know. But it's really sad to me to see a person, at least in the U.S. government, like as a U.S. citizen, that privacy has now become an option instead of a right. Even if it was the implied right before, to me, privacy, the future, whether tech-related or not, I should be able to choose whether or not somebody has my data. I should be able to be forgotten. There's a lot of these things. We've seen this already with GDPR. It was implemented in May of 2018 in the EU. The EU is surprisingly one of these people that are one of these organizations now where they're taking the lead on a lot of this stuff, and then other governments catch up slowly. I think GDPR will be the same way. You'll see more governments around the world essentially implement some form of GDPR. What that ultimately means then is, okay, so data, basically redaction becomes massive, because anytime I send around any type of document or anything that has PI in it, I need to be able to remove it and remove the metadata behind it. In my opinion, this is way harder to do in HTML than it is. Some would argue whether it's possible to be done with HTML, but PDF has had this now for I don't know how many years. It's just not even really used well. I mean, again, I keep bringing up the Mueller document. Here we are. They had the tools available to them, and they still butchered it. But I think this will become more and more critical in the future, near-term future. I'd say next 5 years, if not next 2 years. And companies will be putting in place practices to essentially ensure this, because the fines are massive. For small businesses, they'll put you out of business if they want to make make an example out of you. For a large business, it's enough to pay attention to it and to put into some sort of regulation. So I think this will become, massive as they come around. Here's a stupid example, but things like a picture, the person's name, any other security, all this information is stuff that is considered PI. Even a person's IP address is considered PI now. So I think a lot of companies are kind of catching up to this in terms of what does it mean, what does it look like. There's only been a few actual, let's say, cases that have been handed down. I think the big one in France with Facebook. There was another one by Google in the EU. But this will only hit more and more. And I still think PDF, when it comes to any sort of redacting out of information, PDF is by far the known quantity, and is the one that will be adopted more in the future. We've talked about this a lot. I think not just me, but a lot of people have talked about this. I think PDFtron just gave a great talk about Office collaboration. Or Office conversion. I think it was great in the sense that they said, Office is really good at generating the document. Office is really good at, reflow and getting it. But when I need to then involve somebody else and I need to collaborate, that's where PDF comes into play. And especially when you think about marking up, the way this is done currently is very much like, hey, I do it, I give it to you, you do it, you give it back to me. And the way I think it will be done in the future is, hey, here's a whiteboard, we're both on the whiteboard together, this whiteboard is whatever, a document, it doesn't matter. And it's funny to see how much, a lot of different tech companies have tried to do this in different ways. I think Google Docs does it in a good way, better, I think, than even Microsoft Word, in the sense of I need to collaborate on creating the document. But the fact that once you actually get into PDF and I need to collaborate on that, there are decent solutions, but they're new. They're getting better. So I think in the future this will become more and more and more, because I think remote work. Here I'm going to give a shout out to our company. We're a remote company. My two business partners are in Austria. We have 40 people that are completely distributed. It's the norm. It will become the norm. Maybe not completely, but you're going to at least have, as the world gets bigger, you're going to have offices in different spaces that need to collaborate. They're not all going to be sitting at one desk in one place. So I think this will happen more and more and more on all different platforms, whether it's mobile, the web, and we'll go to the next slide because I'll talk about it. So the other thing I think that really will come up, and this is a good part of kind of, I don't want to say big data, but the idea of capturing more machine readable data. This is kind of not really, I mean, if you think about how banks are trying to do it, or other enterprises are trying to do it, you have all these digital documents that if they were machine readable, then I can put, I don't know, a neural network to summarize that data. You can do a lot of different things that ultimately can get you leaps and bounds quicker than you can have a human do it. A perfect example I give is in the legal context. So right now in the US, there's basically two major legal research companies, Westlaw and LexisNexis. So they have, I think, basically built an HTML, done every case, they put it in text, and they have somebody read the case and summarize it. And I assume they pay them to do this. And then if you want to look at the actual case, and they pull it up, and it's a 2-column PDF, right, of the whole entire case. Not machine readable, nothing, right? The future of this is not going to be, I hate to say it, a human doing this. The future of this is going to be a computer. And a computer is going to read the text. They're ultimately going to summarize it. And it's going to be able to correlate these things way better than a human can. This is the legal context of it. This will happen, I think, more and more and more in as many different scenarios you can think. I hate to be the one like putting humans out of the job here, but this is what will happen. And I think with this, if PDF doesn't essentially get adopted more and the ability to both, extract the data and ultimately create it in a way that that data can be extracted, then it might be left behind. I think actually this will push more adoption towards, let's say, richer PDFs than what we have currently. This is going to be the case, period. Who knows what the future is here? Again, now I'm kind of getting into the like Twilight Zone stuff. But yeah, there will be more and more mediums to consume and interact with digital documents. In the past 10 years, we've already seen 2 new ones come up. You have a phone now, you have an iPad or a tablet, and you ultimately have a laptop. Then you have a desktop computer, right? We've all seen the whole, like, what's next, AR glasses or something like this. It's a joke, but there will probably be some sort of form of this in the next 10 years, whether it is glasses or some type of HUD or something. And trust me, there will be digital documents being displayed. You will be reading digital documents there. So how does PDF handle that? There could be an argument made that HTML actually will be better suited for this, but I still come back to the fundamental question of, at the point that you need something to look the way you created it, PDF is still going to be your best bet. It's always going to be your best bet, no matter what medium I'm ultimately delivering it on. Just talking here real generally, I think one of the problems we have right now is digital signatures are not widely used. They're more widely used than they were, let's say, 5 years ago. But by all means, most of the time when you sign something, you're not using a digital signature. This will change. We're already seeing it kind of, I don't want to say with fraud or identity theft and things like that. It will become more and more important that when you use electronic documents that I can with some sort of certainty know this is the person, right? Identity, and that they intend to do action. It doesn't even need to be buy something or transact. It can be this is this person, they intend to open this document, whatever it may be. And digital signatures will, I think, be this form. We've already seen versions of this with, like, I don't know, Face ID on an iPhone or Touch ID. The question is, when I get the receipt from Touch ID or receipt from Face ID, how do I know that it was my my thumb? How do I know anything about that? It's completely done in the background. I don't have a way of knowing this. To me, digital signatures here is the perfect solution to this as things become more digital. And I think we'll see more and more adoption, and I could get into a whole entire thing about certificate authorities, but I won't go there. We'll save that one for later. But yeah, I think the final thing, and this is the base reason people enjoy PDF or people trust PDF, is that it's a stable file type. The big thing here is the container aspect of it. Again, Duff's written a bunch about this stuff, about PDF packages and the whole idea of, like, I don't know, email archiving and using PDF more as a sort of encompassing thing. I think web is trying to go that way. This is what web packages are trying to become. I think the cultural aspect of PDF, this is where it helps it. When I open a HTML file website, or let's say one of my friends open an HTML file or website, they don't think final. That's not what you think. You think fluid, changing, dynamic, right? When you open up a PDF, you think final, not changing without some onerous amount of work, right? This helps this because there will always be this need. I mean, here we are at electronic document conversion. We have paper everywhere still. We're not going to get rid of paper. Paper's not going away. There will just be needs for both. A perfect example, I will need a hard copy to file a pleading, but at the same time, I'll need the electronic document version of it to interact with it. I don't think that's going to change in the next 10 years. I just think you will see more hybrid, you'll see more use of digital documents, but at the same time, it won't replace this need for paper. And as long as there's a need for both, PDF will always be, I think, the more used file type in this sort of use case. Finally, and I need to cut it off. Sorry. All right, so real quick, continue to increase the importance to backwards compatibility. This is kind of what I already talked about. Yeah, so HTML or PDF, I think you guys know where I stand on that. But I don't think there'll be both, like, I don't think it's one conquers all. I think there's actually a place for both in the future. So yeah, that's it.